Hello, everybody. I'm going to show you how to use Vlookup in Google Sheets to be able to easily find whatever information that you need from a spreadsheet that's just full of a bunch of different information. So here's our finished product. And so the cool thing about VLOOKUP is it lets us do something like this. Check this out. So I have a little drop-down box set up here, and I have all my student names here, and I want to easily look at their address or phone number or their guardian's name, and all I have to do is pick the student's name here. So I'll pick Clark Kent here, and just like that, it pops up his address, his phone number, his parents' name, all that stuff. And the cool thing about VLOOKUP is it's super fast, as you can tell here, and you can bring in whatever information that you want. So I'm going to show you how to set this whole thing up just like we have here. So first thing that we need to do is have a spreadsheet set up that has a bunch of data or information in it. So looking at the screen here, I have a bunch of information here. So of course, I have my students' names. I got their guardians' first and last names, their address, homeroom, grade level, lunch, quarterly grades, all that stuff. And so what I want to do is end up with something, again, just like we have here, where I have a nice, easy list that I can just jump and look at whatever information I need for that particular student. Okay, so the way to do this is by using the VLOOKUP function. And here's the support page for it. If you just Google for Google Sheets VLOOKUP, it'll give you this page and explains how to do it. But in this video, I'll show you kind of the gist of what to do. All right, so what we want to do is, again, first have all of our data set up like we have here. Then we have an option of having the VLOOKUP formula placed on the same exact tab as all of our data. So I could just make some space down here and put in my VLOOKUP formula down here if I want. I can put it over to the side. I can do whatever I want. I can also make a new tab like I did here at the bottom, and I just made a new sheet. You can do it either way. And so let's go ahead and start putting this together. For me, I'm going to put this one in this other tab just so it looks nice and it's nice and easy to find stuff. Okay, so what we want to do is I first want to make this drop-down box like we have here. So as we can see, I have this nice little drop-down box that I can select which students I want. And the way to make that is, let's start it in our kind of work project here. We have to use something, this part has nothing to do with VLOOKUP. It's just a nice thing to use in conjunction with VLOOKUP. And all we have to do is just start in the cell that we want the drop-down box to be in. Then we're going to go up to the Data tab, and we're going to go and find Data Validation. And then this menu has a bunch of different stuff in it, but the thing that we're going to look for is under this criteria, make sure it's set to list from a range. Then in the box next to it, we're going to click on this little square symbol that's next to it, kind of at the end there. We'll give a click on that. This little box is going to come up. We leave that as is, and we go back to the page that has all of our data in it, and we just highlight the range of cells that we want to be our selector. So in this case, it's all of our student names. And so I'm just going to click and drag and pick all these student names there, and I'll hit OK. Now I'll make sure to have this button here turned on for show drop-down list in a cell, and I'll probably also hit reject input. If anything else comes in the cell, the VLOOKUP isn't going to work. So you'll probably want this to be on for show drop-down list in a cell, and this button on here for reject input. Okay, then we'll hit save. We'll take a look back at our VLOOKUP tab here, and hey, there we go. So now I have this nice little drop-down box here, and I can go pick whatever student that I want. Okay. Now, let's actually get into the VLOOKUP formula. And so looking at the help page that Google has, there's a lot of stuff in here. It's a little bit confusing to set up. I'll try to kind of streamline it for you as best as I can. So let's go ahead and get started. So with VLOOKUP, it works the same way as any other formula. So you start in the cell that you want the information to show up in, and we'll start with an equal sign, as all formulas do. Start with an equal sign, and then we simply type VLOOKUP. Okay. And now it has the same little helper page. If you're familiar with Google Sheets, it has this nice little helper window thing here that tells you what to look for. Now, the first one here is called search key, the first argument, as I call it. The first thing here is search key. What that means is whatever thing that we're looking for, whatever kind of, I guess, the topic is. In this case, the search key is going to be my student name. And the way to do this so I don't have to go in and change it every time, is I just simply click on the cell where I put those drop-down boxes. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be A2 for me. Then I simply hit comma to go to the next item over. So it's going to be search key. That's going to be our student names, or again, it could be whatever you're actually looking for, student names, Chromebook models, whatever you want. Then the next thing over here is range. And so for range, this is asking where the formula needs to look to start looking for information. So for this one, it's going to be all of my data here. So I'm going to jump back over to my data tab at the bottom, and you'll notice here, it still has kind of like a little floating version of my formula that I've been typing. And so the cool thing about this is I can go grab information from a different tab. That's exactly what I'm doing. So for the range here, I just want all this information. So what I'm going to do is I'll start clicking on the first bit and drag it on over to the last bit. So there we go. Highlighted all the information that I want. That's all I need to do for that. I hit comma again. And now the next thing here is what they call index. Index just means however many columns over that we're looking for. And so in this case here, let me jump back to my Vlookup tab here. It's looking for my phone number. So that's just what I typed in there for just myself. I want to have my student's phone number pop up in this cell. So let me hop back in here. So when I go to my index, I need to count how many columns over the phone number data is back in the data tab here. So starting from column A, where my first column of data is, I start counting with 1. So full name is 1, guardian first name is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so 8 is the index for phone number. Okay, so I simply type 8 into the formula, and then I hit a comma again. This is the last thing, and then this last option is for is sorted. Honestly, I don't really fully understand what this one is, to be totally honest. On the Google help page, it just highly recommends just calling it false. So I've only ever used false, so I'll simply type false and hit enter. Okay, so now I have this formula in here, but it has an issue. So it says there's no value it just has a little quote there. Well, the reason doesn't have anything is because I don't have any names selected in this first box. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick a name. So I'll pick Clark Kent. Hey, there we go. And so I brought in a phone number for him. So let's double check and make sure this phone number is right. So Clark Kent should have phone number 555-0147. Let's go check. There we go. Hey, it worked. So 202-555-0147. It's a fake number, obviously. But hey, there it is. Now, we just brought that information in. And the cool thing is, now that we have these drop boxes, I can jump to whatever name that I want. So if I want to show this student, or this one, or this one, I can jump into all these different students, and it'll give me whatever associated information that I want. Now, next thing I can do here is I can use the same VLOOKUP formula to also bring over their address and even bring over their guardian's first and last name. I could bring in whatever I want from any of these categories, any of this data that I have here in this sheet. So it could be their address, it could be their grade level, it could be what type of lunch that they have, it could be what grade they got in quarter 2, whatever we want. Okay, so in my case here, the next one I want to find is our address. And so the nice thing that we can do here is we can just copy the formula over. And so if I give a click on the VLOOKUP formula that we already did, I can drag it on over. Or I can hit copy and paste it on over as well. So what I'll do is I'll simply go ahead and do copy, Command-C. I'm on a Mac, so Command-C or Control-C to copy. And then we'll go ahead and paste that in there. Now, one thing you'll notice if you kind of look really closely at the formula bar here, I'll make this a little bit bigger here. So look up in the formula bar. When I go from one formula to the next one, you'll notice it changes everything over. So like you see in the old formula that we did, it's like A2 is the first thing in orange, and then in the purple part it's A2 to L16. When I go over to the other one, it's all shifted over, right? So this is kind of one thing that you kind of have to do as well if you're going to have multiple things pop up for VLOOKUP. So if you're doing the VLOOKUP formula multiple times. What we want to do is make the orange, pretty much just the first two arguments here, the orange, which is the search key, and the purple, which is the range. We want to make those static or absolute, as I call them, which just means as you copy the formula over, it doesn't change those things. Easiest way to do that is just make sure you're clicked into that part. You can actually highlight it too if that's easier. So I'm going to highlight my A2 there. And I'm going to hit F4. I need to hit, I'm on my Mac, so I have to hold the FN key. There we go. If you hit F4, that on the very top row of your keyboard, F4, it'll put in these little dollar signs for you. That just means it's an absolute reference, which that means it's going to keep it the same no matter when you copy it or like drag over the formula. Again, we want to do that for the search key and for the range. So I'm going to highlight the range here and do that same thing and do F4, and it drops in those little dollar signs. Okay, now I'll hit enter again. And now, again, I'll just drag it on over, or you can do a copy paste. And now, so the next thing here is we see it brought over the same phone number, which is good. That's the thing it's supposed to do. But I want it to be the address instead of the phone number. So what I need to do is find the index for the address now. So going back over here, we just need to count over however many columns over the address is. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the index will be 4. Come back in here, we'll just change this from an 8 to a 4. There we go, it dropped in the address. And now the next thing we can do, this is kind of an advanced thing. This is where we can nest multiple formulas together. So this one's kind of an advanced thing, but we'll kind of roll with it here. So with this last one here that we have for our guardian first and last name, I set it up like this because back here in our data sheet, the guardian first name and last names, those are actually separate columns. And so we can actually combine those things together in the VLOOKUP, so they're just in one column together. Okay, and so the way this works is, again, we simply just copy over that same VLOOKUP formula that we did earlier. So here it is. I'm just going to drag it on over. And when I do that, it'll just, of course, still have the address because that's the index that it's looking for. But now let's put in the index, maybe just for the guardian's first name. And so the guardian's first name, this is just the second column over, so the index will be 2. So we'll come back in here, and we'll change our index from a 4 to 2. And of course, that'll give us our first name, so we got Ned. But I also want to have the last name in here. And so what we can do from here is we can combine multiple formulas together in one cell. So this is kind of an advanced thing, but it's really cool. So to do that, we're going to go back into our formula again here. And what I like to do is just make a space or two between the equal sign and the first formula. And instead of having it just be equals VLOOKUP, we have to make it equals, and then we put in another formula in front of it called concatenate. So if you start typing CONC, you'll find this one called concatenate. And so what this does is it allows you to bring multiple formulas together and have them display in the same cell. So we should see something like this: equals concatenate, then a parenthesis, and then the existing formula, VLOOKUP formula that we just did. And all that's good. Then we go down towards the end of our first VLOOKUP formula that we just did here. And then we go past its closing parenthesis, hit a comma. Notice it changes over our, like, what's being highlighted here in the little help page thing for concatenate. As soon as I type a comma, it realizes I'm coming over to the second string, or like the second formula that I'm doing. Okay. Now here I'm just going to copy and paste this exact same VLOOKUP formula here. So what I'll do is I'm going to erase this here, and with my mouse I'll kind of carefully click and drag and copy this whole VLOOKUP formula here. There we go. Highlight that, copy, and we'll paste it right in there. Okay. And then I again want to, I'll just hit enter and show you. So right now it shows Ned. That's what it displays because it's just showing the first name twice. So again, we need to change the index. So if I come back in here, 2 was the index for the first guardian's first name. So 3 is the index here for the last name. Then I hit enter again, and hey, there we go. Now I have Ned Stark. And so that looks nice, but it could also benefit from having a space there probably too. So what I can do here is I can also concatenate in a space between the two VLOOKUPs. So again, I'm going to double click into the cell again to edit this long formula that we have going on here now. And now we see we have our concatenate, then we have our VLOOKUP, and then we have this comma here, then there's our second VLOOKUP. And between the first and the second VLOOKUP, I want to have a comma and then something that just tells the formula to put a space between the first VLOOKUP and the second. So all I have to do for that is type a quote, type a space, and then a quote again, then hit comma again. So again, I'll show you that again. So you type a quote, type a space, and then type a quote again, and then another comma. That's telling the computer to put in a space between the two VLOOKUPs. All right, then I hit enter, and hey, there we go. So now I have my guardian first and last name brought in from two different cells, brought into one thing. All right, and there we go. There is our finished product. So just like we had at the beginning, I can come through here, pick a different name, and there we go. Jump to whoever I like. If you notice, like I noticed, like this one here, there's an extra space here between their first and last name. The reason that happens is because there's a space in the original page here. So if I double click on Jim here, so he just has an extra space there. Hit enter, get rid of that space. And there we go. So that space is gone. So if you see that and that bothers you, you can change it that way. But there we go. That's how you can use VLOOKUP to easily find whatever information that you need. Search by a person, search by a product that you have, a type of Chromebook, a printer, whatever you need. And you can just look for whatever thing that you need, whatever person that you need, and pull up whatever associated information that you need at a really quick glance. Hopefully this helps, and I'll see you in the next video.